The Baltimore Ravens humiliate themselves in week number 6 versus the Los Angeles Rams. They drop to 1-5, and their season is in a dire spot. We break it all down coming up on this instant reaction edition of Locked On Ravens.
You are Locked On Ravens, your daily Baltimore Ravens podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are Locked On Ravens. Welcome into the show. I'm your host, Kevin Oestreicher of Ravens Wire, here with you on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks so much for being here on this Sunday afternoon after that Ravens Week 6 loss to the Rams and making Locked On Ravens a part of your day, your first listen each and every single day. Of course, we have 5 days a week plus more of daily Ravens coverage. Good times, bad times, and in between. We're here for you with all the Ravens content that you need. So we're going to be breaking everything down. The Ravens, they fall to 1-5, entering their bye week after their 17-3 loss to the Rams. We'll talk about where it all went wrong, and we'll dive into what changes need to be made because there are plenty that need to happen. So we'll have those conversations. We'll have real conversations about this team because I think that they're needed at this point, and the bye week is the time. The bye week is the time for these changes. So again, appreciate everybody for being here. I want to remind everybody and tell everybody today's instant reaction edition of Locked On Ravens is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Man, this is just a third straight week where the Ravens have just been outmatched. And honestly, this one in terms of that was better than we saw the last two, but the problem in this game was not taking advantage of opportunities, right? The Ravens defense got lucky in certain spots. They got bailed out special teams wise. Ravens special teams got bailed out too by whether it be Rams penalties, mistakes, bad coaching decisions, and they still lost by 14 points. The 3 points marks the second fewest in Ravens history at M&T, I believe. And, you know, you just have so much to look at if you're this Ravens team right now. And it starts with the coaching staff. I'm not saying the players executed beautifully in this game. Obviously, there's stuff we'll get to there. But you just can't continue this. Players have to answer. Coaches have to answer. I have 2 areas where the Ravens should make changes that are realistic, in my opinion. Because I know a lot of people right now, they're calling for John Harbaugh's job, right? They're saying John Harbaugh's going to get fired. I think John should be gone, if we're being honest with you. I just do. But at the end of the day, I just don't think organizationally that's what the Ravens are going to do. I know that's not what people want to hear. I'm just going based off what I think the Ravens will do. What I would do is I would try to find a spark here because the messaging from Harbaugh clearly is not getting through. It's just the repetitive same stuff over and over again. But I do think a coaching change will happen. Again, I don't have any inside information. I don't know what's going on in the organization from that perspective. But I do think Zach Orr loses his job this week. I do. This is the time to do it. If it doesn't happen during the bye week, I'm not sure it will happen all year. The bye week gives you an opportunity to get another guy in. I assume it'll just be Pagano 1-for-1, but you need to get a spark. You need to have it happen. And I think that Orr is probably the scapegoat, if you want to call him that. Not that, he's been calling great games. I mean, again, it was better, but still not great. Like, again, the play that I think summarizes Zach Orr's tenure with the Ravens as the defensive coordinator is 4th and 2. You rush 2 guys and let Matthew Stafford sit back there and pick you apart. That's just bad play calling. It's inexperienced play calling. It's trying to get too cute. And that's the Ravens. We say it over and over and over again. This team gets way too cute. We're on Zach Orr. We'll put a pin in that for now. Move to Todd Monken for a second, who I thought also was terrible in this game. You got 2nd and goal from the Rams 1-yard line, and you run 2 sneaks with Mark Andrews before running a 4th down run with Derrick Henry that everybody knows is coming, by the way. I'm okay with 1 sneak. I'm fine with that. You want to switch things up? Fine. I would have run that ball on 2nd down, and then I would have run that ball with Henry on 3rd and 4th down. You don't run it twice, in my opinion. That, to me, was malpractice. Derrick Henry is invisible to Todd Monken in situations they need him. I'm sure Derrick Henry is very mad right now with how this is going because, he's someone that he excels in these situations. He excels in these situations. And, I get that, the players are standing behind Zach Orr right now. I understand that that's what they should be doing. It's not that Zach Orr's a problem in the locker room or, he's like, he has enemy. No, that's not the case. But you can just tell that he's not cut out for this right now. And it's unfortunate because I think that Zach has a lot of potential as a DC, but the Ravens, as I've said on this show many a times, they cannot wait for that. They cannot wait for that because in big moments, in critical situations, you're still playing off in coverage. There were multiple drops today by Rams wide receivers. There was a missed field goal, obviously, as well. That was more of a special teams thing. But, regardless, that to me is why I believe the Ravens will fire Zach Orr after or during the bye week. Again, I don't know that for a fact. I'm not in the organization. I'm not reporting that news. That is just my opinion on what I think will happen here because someone has to answer. Last week it was Owe. Owe answered. And by the way, speaking of that, we do have some breaking news. Tavius Robinson. I meant to say Tavius Robinson broke his foot. So he's out for, I don't know the, extent of the injury, obviously, but that's probably a multiple month absence for a team that just traded an outside linebacker. Your outside linebacker room now consists of Kyle Van Noy, Mike Green, and David Ajabo. I don't know when Adisa Isaac is coming back. Maybe he's going to come back after the bye. That'd be a boost for them, I guess. But, that's a tough spot to be in. And I see Big Cuzzo saying the defense played better today. I agree. I mean, look, compared to what we've seen, it was better compared to, I thought in the first half, they were a lot better on first down, forcing the Rams into second and long, third and long situations. They did, like John Jenkins forced the turnover on that strip stack by Matthew Stafford. Like the defense played better, right? They did. Now, again, would anything have been worse than what we saw the past 2 weeks? I'm not really sure. But the defense also had a couple of plays that probably could have gone in the Rams' favor that didn't. And so it's the tale of both sides, right? Like both sides are true. But this is a team that has rested its laurels on defense for the entire organization's history, right? This is a team that goes on and you look at from the Ray Lewis days, to figuring out who this team was after Ray and some of the years that they had, the 2023 defense, which was historic. Like they've had these units and that's what this defense is. I mean, Ray Lewis is probably embarrassed. He had comments on the Ravens defense. We talked about that on Saturday's bonus edition. So you haven't checked that out, be sure to go do it because he had some interesting perspective. But at this point, messaging isn't getting through, right? Messaging isn't getting through. And even though the defense was better, I think that honestly, look, this might be a hot take. I think that Todd Monken deserves more criticism than Zach Orr today, right? Not that both don't deserve criticism. There were certain plays that both guys wish they would have had back, but I do not think Todd Monken called a good game. And part of it is on the execution, right? Cooper Rush throwing that ball for an interception, Zay fumbling twice, like the offensive line in certain spots not getting pushed. And I thought the O-line was, early in the game, I thought it was fine. By the end of the game, it was a disaster. And that is the other change I think the Ravens need to make here. They need to change at least one of these guys out, if not multiple of these guys out. I think Lele needs to be benched. I think Voorhees, unfortunately, needs to be benched. I was super high on Voorhees, just hasn't worked. Rosengarten's regressed, I don't think, because again, with Ronnie Stanley going out, Joe Noteboom needs to be cut, in my opinion. He needs to be cut. So the offensive line is in shambles. And we talked about this on the pregame show this morning, on the shows throughout the week. They need to start up front, get the offensive line up front to make that push. And again, I thought they were doing fine early, but then it seemed like Stanley went down and, it all kind of happened. Now, John Harbaugh said that he doesn't foresee himself making coaching changes during the bye, which is interesting. So I don't know, maybe Zach Orr's not getting fired. We'll talk about that a little more tomorrow on the show when we kind of dive into what could happen. But I think that a coaching change needs to happen. And again, this organization, loyalty is generally a very good trait to have. It has generally helped the Ravens out. It is one of the things that has happened for them that has helped them over the course of their franchise history. But sometimes this organization can be too loyal to a fault. We saw that with Greg Roman. We saw that with Steve Saunders. It can't happen again here because you know what? If you keep Zach Orr, in my opinion, you're giving up on the season. Just straight up. I'll tell it like it is. I think you're giving up on the season if you keep Zach Orr past the bye week. I do. Not that he was the big main problem today. He was one of them, but I just think John Harbaugh got embarrassed again. And I have a real problem with how John Harbaugh handled the end of this game, in my opinion, and how the calls were coming in from Todd Monken late in this game. I thought it was a huge problem that they did, because it showed me for the first time, I honestly thought the Ravens gave up in a game, like for real, in a game that was within reach to win. That to me is what the final straw was in terms of this team needs major change. Not that they didn't before this. We've talked about that. I think that they do need changes. I think that they have the ability to make changes, but the problem is, will they make changes, right? I can't even put into words like all three phases. And again, LeJohntay Wester gets bailed out by a Rams penalty. Special teams was special teams was the best part of the game today for the Ravens. And, LeJohntay was able to make up for his mistake, but you can tell that this team is just not bought in. Like, you can tell that this team is they're waiting for something. They're probably waiting for that spark to happen, right? They're waiting for that spark to happen. And, I think that overall, I thought we saw fight from the defense early, right? I liked that. I thought that running the ball to start the game was great. But at the end of the game is where I have the problem. It just looked like it was a different team from what we saw in the first half, right before that goal line sequence, versus the second half of the game, which kind of just felt like, oh man, we didn't score there. Really missed opportunity. Just felt like from there, everything came crashing down. So better, and I see Ryan talking about it, way better than I thought it was going to be. Hey, me too. Me too. I'm right there with you. It was an improvement over what we saw in the last 2 weeks, right? 100%. I 100% agree with that. But I just think the problem with me was how the end of the game was handled. That's where I saw the quit kind of come in for the coaching staff, in my opinion, right? Where that was a huge, huge issue for me. So it's just the issue because you also have Cooper Rush, who clearly was not a fit for this offense. I don't have a problem with them throwing money at a backup, but the problem was Cooper Rush was not that guy. And then the turnovers came in some of the most inopportune times that you could probably ever have here when the Ravens were driving. Then they made a weird play call or a bad play call, and things just overall, it came crashing down. After we saw a lot more fight early, the fight early was great. I loved how they were running the ball. I love how they were taking it to the Rams. I love how the offensive line was pushing and Henry was finding holes in that defense, and the defense was playing more inspired football. They just couldn't take advantage of the opportunities. And now you're 1-5, essentially needing to go 9-2 over your last 11 games. Yeah, to make it to 10-7, which would be the record that was the worst in the playoffs last season. And that's a big run. Not that they can't do it with Lamar. They can, but that they'd have to show more this type of defense that they showed, and they would have to show it without getting as lucky as they did in this game. So again, the defense early was good. I liked what I saw, but then as the game went on, it just kind of went back to the Ravens that we've seen this season, which is really unfortunate. So coming up in the second part of the show, going to be diving into still what changes the Ravens need to make here, what changes they could make, will they actually make them, and diving into the Ravens and this week 6 loss to the Rams. So be sure to stay tuned. We got plenty coming your way on this instant reaction edition of Locked On Ravens. First, the show is brought to you by Supply House. When the opening whistle blows on a new repair, get your crew moving forward with Supply House. Order today and see parts on your doorstep tomorrow. Over 280,000 plumbing, HVAC, and electrical items from the most trusted brands in the business. Their real-time inventory and honest lead times keep you from punting projects, while their industry-leading customer service has you and has your blind side covered too. So if you need parts for a fast project or fast for a project, Supply House has next day delivery. Talk about a game changer. The part finder tools and 3D schematics can save you hours on jobs where every detail matters, and the Trademaster perks like priority shipping and dedicated support make the whole process smoother. Join the free Trademaster program today and score serious perks like priority shipping, lower prices, and a dedicated support line. Visit supplyhouse.com to sign up for free and use promo code SHNFL5 for 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com. Real people, real service. Back here on this instant reaction edition of Locked On Ravens, Kevin Oestreicher still here with you after the Ravens humiliate themselves, in my opinion, in week number 6 against the Los Angeles Rams. Again, it was a better performance than we've seen from them, but still they cannot take advantage of opportunities, and they showed no urgency in that fourth quarter down to score. So that's one of my biggest problems with this game in particular for Baltimore and the coaching staff. Again, appreciate everybody for being here. We're 5 days a week plus more on Locked On Ravens. where we have the regular show Monday through Friday, 6 a.m. Eastern time. We also do the Locked On Ravens watch-alongs during games. We had that again today, which was, again, fun for the community and really fun to interact, but wish the result was a little better there for the Ravens, obviously. And then we got bonus episodes, these instant reaction shows, and the squad show, which is coming up after this. So be sure you check in and check out everything we have here on Locked On Ravens. But, I mean, look, they're going to try to rely on Lamar Jackson to save this season again. I see it in the chat. Multiple people are saying it right now. The Ravens, in 2 games that Lamar Jackson's not played for them this year, 6.5 points per game is what they are averaging. 6.5. Now, I see it in the chat too. I think that if Tyler Huntley played the majority of this game, if not all of it, I think the Ravens probably are in a spot to win it, if not just win it outright, because of how that offense looked on the drives that Tyler Huntley played. You know, it was the offense that the Ravens run. They're trying to force Cooper Rush into this offense, and it's not working. And I saw a stat about Cooper and how abysmal he's been in Baltimore. Gowie here, who's awesome, he says Cooper Rush has 1 touchdown and 7 interceptions since putting on a Ravens uniform, including the preseason. I mean, he should be demoted. The problem is the Ravens gave him $12 million. And Brian McFarland, who we've had on the show many times, Ravens salary cap, he knows everything from the Ravens salary cap perspective. 2-year, $6.2 million deal, which includes $4 million in guaranteed money. No guaranteed money due in 2026. So he's gone after the year regardless. He is not coming back. But it's just, it's just awful. Like, Cooper Rush making some bad decisions. The best thing Cooper Rush did in this game today was the hard count. I mean, you got 3 hard count calls on the Rams in this game? That was the only thing he did. That interception choice, just not doing anything. Going through his progressions, not really finding anything. Cooper's final stats on the day, just to get the box score perspective on this, you have him not really doing much of anything in this game. He got 11 of 19 for 72 yards. That's 3.8 yards per pass with an interception. Huntley comes in 10 of 15, 68 yards with nothing, so 4.5. But Huntley is his threat as a runner as well as a thrower at the quarterback situation. That's what you need in this offense. I would not play Cooper Rush another down in a Ravens uniform. We've seen enough. I truly think that we've seen enough. And at this point, it has to be the sunken cost fallacy. This is something I've talked about on the show before, where Cooper Rush clearly is not a better option for this Ravens offense than Tyler Huntley. Not that Huntley's like the best option you can get as a backup, but like Huntley is a better option. But the Ravens paid Cooper all that money, and they say, hey, we need to get some return on our investment here. So they're going to throw him out there. And that, to me, is the wrong way to do it. It's the wrong way to do it. And then the messaging from Harbaugh itself is, again, kind of like a slap in the face to a lot of people. Like that, to me, I think is the biggest problem, where I talked about on the Saturday bonus episode, Rashod Bateman taking full accountability. Him saying that the fans deserve, to feel how they feel, that the Ravens deserve all the criticism they get. And that Rashod and he even took accountability for the play where he looked like he gave up on the ball. He explained it, said, hey, I know how it looks. It's not good. I apologize. That accountability, John Harbaugh does not take. There's nothing from John Harbaugh that says, hey, you know what? Yeah, we need to really, this is really bad. And we need to, the messaging from Harbaugh is, hey, he said, quote, we can accomplish what we want to accomplish with the type of team that could do it. No one wants to hear that. No one wants to hear that. So, for Derrick Henry saying, we know it's rough right now. And, the players saying that, the messaging, it almost just feels like John Harbaugh has no idea what's going on around him, or he's trying to make it appear that way. He just doesn't want to know, because you know what his messaging was? At the beginning of the season? It was, this isn't Super Bowl or bust. That's ridiculous. He said anybody who thinks that way hasn't played sports or participated in sports in their life or something like that. I'm paraphrasing, but essentially that was the message. We all knew it was Super Bowl or bust. We know that John Harbaugh's feeling the pressure, but it would be different if he was taking that accountability, but it just seems like he doesn't know how to do it. Where it's like, oh, you know what? Well, we're going to get better at it this week and we're going to do that. Sure, that's great to have that mindset, but there's also a bit of acknowledgement that needs to happen. And you look at how this team, because again, I think the team showed fight themselves. Defense showed fight. Offense showed fight earlier in this game. But then once that play, the sequence at the goal line, once that didn't end up coming to fruition, well, then all of a sudden, I think things just kind of went downhill. And I'm not saying players or anything like that. I know the players are playing hard out there. I understand it. But I think the way that the last big offensive drive was handled. So essentially, here's the timeline of events, okay? This is where my problem is. You are down by 2 scores. The Rams inexplicably do not go up 3 possessions in this game. They decide when a field goal could tie. Maybe I think the Rams are going to cut their kicker tomorrow, but regardless, I don't know. The Rams from the Ravens their 6-yard line. The Ravens 6-yard line decide not to kick a field goal to go up 3 possessions, and Matthew Stafford gets sacked. Simpson and Buchanan were in on that play. The Ravens then run off a 17-play, 74-yard drive in 9 minutes and 46 seconds. The problem with that is that there was no urgency. They got the ball back with 13 minutes and 30 seconds to go, down by 2 scores. Regardless of how it looked, regardless of the sequencing and all that, you were still in that game, down 2 scores with 13 minutes and 30, almost the entire fourth quarter to go. And every single play, the play clock was getting down 5, 4, 3, 2. And there was no urgency up until nothing. That whole drive, there was no urgency. That to me, I don't know what that was, but it was atrocious clock management. I don't know if the play calls weren't getting in fast enough, if Harbaugh had something to do with it. I don't know, but I'm putting some on Harbaugh and some on Monken. I mean, it was awful to watch this team essentially walk their way down the field with no urgency whatsoever. You're still in that game down by 2 scores. And the Ravens acted like it was like a 4-score game or something with the lack of urgency that they had. It was awful. It was awful to see a team essentially give up right in front of you, in my opinion. That to me is what that felt like. Is they're saying, yeah, you know what? We're just going to kind of go through the motions here. It is what it is. I get needing to get guys set. I get it's a new quarterback. I understand all of that. But Huntley has been in this system enough. He's been with this team enough where he can run a quicker offense than what we saw. That, to me, was the inexcusable part of this game, alongside, obviously, Derrick Henry not being involved on the play. But you just can't have that. You're 1-4. You have an actual opportunity to go down the field and cut this to a 1-score game and maybe have anywhere from 5 to 7 minutes left on the clock in a good situation. And you end up going all the way down. The Rams got this ball back with 3 minutes and 44 seconds to go. They got all the way down to the Rams 15 and then couldn't punch in anything with that. And, I see it a lot in the chat. I see David talking about it. Got too cute with the tush push, just running inside zone and we get the touchdown. Again, I have running the ball on 2nd down with Andrews was the mistake. They should have run the ball with Henry on 2nd down. And if they didn't get that, then whatever. You can do the sneak, switch things up, throw them off guard. But doing it 2 times in a row was ridiculous. That to me was ridiculous. One time I get it. I understand it. You want to switch things up if it's not working on that first 2nd down play. But Henry had just run. Actually, I need to go back and look. I'll do a little live research here on the show. Henry had he'd given up he got 4 yards on that first one, didn't he? On 1st down, he got 3 yards. He ran for 3 yards on that 1st down run. It was 1st and 10 from the Rams 4-yard line, and Henry ran for 3 yards. You have to run that ball again with Henry. The order of operations should have been the run and then another Henry run, and then I would have done it with Henry again, but then you can do the sneak and then another run, or you do play action on that 4th down. If you want to get cute with it, you run Henry 3 times and do play action on 4th down, or you do play action on 3rd down, run with Henry on 4th down. The sneak just to me does nothing. And, and I want to point out this too, because it's not all, Nehemiah talking about here how John Jenkins, he's been one of the MVPs of the defense, right? He kept the Ravens in the game early, forcing a turnover, and he's been good for them. But it's just the rest of the team. A lot of this team is not there right now. And again, Zay Flowers with the execution, that's tough. 2 fumbles for him. You never want to see that. The interception, they kept gifting the Rams opportunities. And again, I think special teams was the best aspect of this Ravens offense or this Ravens team today, because, maybe it was just they didn't get a lot of snaps out there. But regardless, Tyler hits the field goal. LeJohntay, he gets revenge on his fumble. Jordan Stout puts the ball in the end zone for a touchback, puts the Rams. Actually, there was a penalty, so put him at the 10. I thought special teams was the best aspect of this team today. But actually, look at this. Speaking of, wow, Steve, you know when to pop in, Steve. Steve Tyler's dad in the chat, everybody. So look, tough one for sure. They're in a rough spot right now at 1-5. The bye week needs to be an opportunity to grow and maybe some changes. I think definitely some changes. So we'll see, but appreciate you checking in, Steve, as always. So I just think that the Ravens right now, they need to do a lot of soul searching, and because they can't continue as it is right now, or else they're probably not going to win a lot more games, if anything. So we will see. We're coming up in the final part of the show. We'll keep talking about changes, keep talking about this Ravens team, because again, the way that this team is right now, it's a problem with the expectations that we were expecting this team to come out with during the year. So stay tuned. We got plenty coming your way on this instant reaction edition of Locked On Ravens. First, this show is brought to you by FanDuel. And the NFL season's here. FanDuel has an offer you don't want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. Pick a bet, put down $5. If it hits, you unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Now, I love how FanDuel gives me so many ways to play. I've built parlays, tried player props, and even followed the live lines during games. It makes watching football even more exciting when you've got a little something riding on the action. Whether you're a casual fan or love diving into the stats, FanDuel makes the game day experience so much better. So the Rams coming into this game were 7-point road favorite. So, obviously that went the way that it did. But hey, maybe you had like a Tyler Higbee anytime touchdown. Maybe you're a little crazy with that. And over on FanDuel, you're probably living large there. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get started. Moving along on Locked On Ravens, Kevin Oestreicher still here with you. Ravens lose in week 6 to the Rams, 17-3. They drop to 1-5 and have plenty of soul searching to do here over the course of their bye week, which is next week. Appreciate everybody again for being here. We have 5 days a week plus more of daily Ravens coverage and content. So we have the regular show Monday through Friday, 6 a.m. Eastern time. We have the instant reaction shows after games. We have the watch-alongs during games. We have instant reactions after big news. We have the Locked On Ravens squad show, which is going to come up right after this instant reaction stream. We got bonus episodes on the weekend. So a lot of Ravens coverage and content. You can also follow me on social media at ChaosStriker34, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and also you got over on TikTok as well. Now, look, I think that for everything that this Ravens team has gone through so far through 6 weeks, the thing that I question the most at this point is how, not from an effort perspective, I'm not saying the players aren't giving effort, but how bought in they are to the messaging that's being put across by the coaching staff right now. That's my true message, because when you hear the same stuff over and over again, and again, the defense was better, and I see Steve watching from a cruise, man, living large, Steve, I love it. But, Steve saying defense was better today, which it was. I mean, look, based off what we saw, it was, but I just think that after the sequence by the goal line, the whole team was just kind of like, ugh. But that's on coaching to get them fired up, right? Get them rallied together and say, hey, you know what? Yeah, that was bad. Like we should have, like this, that, and the other. Like, but you know what? No more opportunities in the second half. That's what they needed to do. And I just at this point, I wonder. I truly do, because you're not gonna win a lot of games when coaching staff and players aren't on the same page. And, this honestly extends to when Lamar Jackson was on the field. I mean, we saw frustration from Lamar, seen it from Derrick Henry. Like, there are so many, and even just like little things matter here, right? At the beginning of the second quarter, the Ravens had to burn 2 timeouts. There was one that was really, I don't know why the Ravens had to like burn a timeout when they did early. I think it was like 11 minutes to go in the second quarter is when like the play clock was just running down and Harbaugh called a timeout. And then they had to call another one defensively. And so you're left with like one timeout halfway through the second quarter. And those are just the things that it ruins you. Penalties also were a big problem in this game. Obviously, offensive line was an issue as the game went on. Ravens had 7 penalties for 80 yards in this game. The Rams had 6 for 40. So the Rams penalties less consequential when it comes to what happened there. But the Ravens averaged 4.8 yards per carry on 37 attempts. Derrick Henry had 18 attempts in the first half, just 6 in the second half. That to me, and again, this game was 3-3 at the half. You should have been able to ride Derrick Henry out a little bit. And I get that the Rams scored on their first possession of the of the third quarter. But this also was kind of the problem I sense with this team. And this goes far beyond this season, is it feels like the Ravens get in their own head and they just go away from something, oh, dang, you go down, man, shoot, now we have to go and pass the ball and do this. And, it just felt like it spiraled after that. And I see Doug talking about, combined 13 points in 2 games, averaging 6.5. And see, I considered using spoiled for the thumbnail. I decided not to do it. But again, this kind of with the spoiled comments and everything going on, it is what it is. And Larry asking how many yards did Henry have? Henry on the day, 24 carries for 122 yards. Huntley had 3 for 39. Justice 6 for 16. He wasn't really getting anything going. Andrews 3 for 2. He actually picked up a first down on a sneak later. So that was where his 2 yards came from. But I mean, look, the Ravens defense, they did their job for the most part early in this game. I mean, the Rams offense could get nothing doing on the ground, just 3.2 yards per attempt. Kyron Williams broke off some longer runs as the game went on. But early in the game, I thought like they were stuffing the Rams on early downs. They were forcing them into second and third and longs. Like that was the game plan. That's what they should have been doing. But they just couldn't get there consistently for the full 60 minutes. And that's the problem. It has to be a full 60-minute game. So this game 3-3 at the half, and it just continues to go, and you have to keep riding that wave. It just feels like they had the opportunity, huge momentum play. And again, the Ravens to me, they're a momentum team, right? That's what I feel like they are. If they don't get that big play or that big sequence that, helps turn the tide of the game, not always, but a lot of the time, they seem to falter and get in their own head, especially in the bigger moments. And that's what you cannot do with this team. You're 1-5. You have the Bears coming up after your bye week. You have a lot of soul searching to do. And I would want that team in a facility all week. There are no breaks, no off, no nothing. Get those guys in a facility and make sure that they are 100%, involved right now. That's what it is. And that's not me like bragging on the players. It's just like, I think that everybody needs to be in lockstep here. The season right now, it's pretty dire, right? It's pretty bad. 1-5. If we look at I cannot believe we're looking at draft order right now for the NFL. This is unbelievable. We're actually doing this. Right now, the Ravens would have still the 3rd overall pick in the draft through 6 weeks. That's crazy. Through 6 weeks. The Jets and the Browns are the ones that are ahead of them right now. 3rd of the way through the season right now, by the way. 6 weeks. We're 1/3 of the way through the season. So you just have, a lot of soul searching to do. Although I see people talking about what souls do the Ravens have right now. I mean, we're going to see. And I see Tanya talking about the Ravens and the players don't believe in Harbaugh stay online. It's old now. And that's my question, right? Like, and I agree. I don't think the messaging is there. I think that Harbaugh can say what he wants to, but I don't think the players is bought into that message. I'm not saying bought in on the field or not showing effort. I think they are showing effort. That's not the problem for me. I think they're showing effort, but it's about, do they believe in what their head coach is saying? Because what have we talked about with Harbaugh? It's that, man, look, he's turned himself into such a good players coach. And, he's been great recently at like delivering messages and like, hey, guys would go to battle with John and for John. It doesn't feel that way right now. It just doesn't. It feels like the players are kind of like, yeah, all right, sure. And the players are saying the right stuff. But, Tom's saying it's a broken record Harbs. So I don't know. And then Luke K asking, do we need more 2 safeties? Is EDC cooking? I mean, in hindsight, the Oweh deal itself, now you're hurting because Tavius Robinson broke his foot. Oweh's gone. So now it's Van Noy, it's Ajabo, and it's Mike Green. Those are your guys right now. You're going to have to definitely make a move. But at this point, are you buyers at the deadline? Or are you sellers at the deadline? I mean, that's something that seriously, we heard reports about Mark Andrews potentially being available at the deadline. If it keeps going this way, then yeah, it is what it is, right? I just, at this point, all you have to do is wonder if the team can turn it around. And this is the bye week, because you have a long road ahead after the bye week. This is the time. This is the pause point in your season. This is the time to make those changes. Benching guys on the O-line, moving on from a coordinator. Like, I think these are the big changes to show that, hey, we're not going to take this. We're not going to tolerate this play and this coaching and this whatnot. We want to still salvage the season. So, and as Amadeus, Tavius Robinson, John Harbaugh announced after the game he broke his foot. So I apologize for having to break that news to you. But, so that's going to be probably a multi-month absence for Tavius Robinson. And that's really tough, Tavius is a guy that actually helps out on this defense. And, now you're out without him, you're without Owe. And, now you need to really figure out where your team goes in terms of direction. So it looks right now completely rudderless. It's like a rudderless boat that's floating out in the ocean with no direction. They need to find direction. And I think one way or another we'll get it after the season, whether they can pull off the comebacks and make the playoffs, or, if they don't. And then I think at that point you're dealing with major changes, more than we're talking about here on this show today. So that's all I have for you here today on this instant reaction edition of Locked On Ravens. So don't go anywhere, because we're having the Locked On Ravens squad show. We're going to have that in just about 5 or 10 or maybe 15 minutes here. So be sure you stay tuned for everything we have. Again, hit the like and subscribe button in video form, and follow along and subscribe in audio form. We're going to have the regular show come out again Monday, 6 a.m. Eastern time tomorrow. So be sure to stay tuned for that. And I will see you right back here soon on Locked On Ravens.